Do you joy in what kind of car you're driving? I want to tell you, hey, it may not be a Cadillac, but it's a Honda, and it's what God gave me, and I take joy in that. But hey, but do you find yourself joying over the things that you have instead of what's inside? You see, that's not where joy is found. See, that's where the devil's going to try to rob you of your joy. Go ahead and look at what it says. He said, joy in the harvest. He said, as the men rejoice. He said, when they divide the spoil. What do you think that is? When they divide the spoil. In other words, when they go out into the field, Michael, and they reap and they reap and they reap, and then they say, and they divide that spoil, and you say, this is mine over here, and this is what I've got. A lot of the reason we're not blessed and we don't have joy is because we're not helping others with what we have. Wilson talked about it this morning. He's talking about giving to others. I love the way it all just flows right in there together. Hey, we're to give to others, and I want to tell you, that's where you're going to find joy. That's where you'll find peace. That's where you'll find happiness. Hey, I want to tell you, there's not been a time in my life that when I've been helping someone else, Brother Doug, that I ain't found joy. That's the many times while we suffer through the things that we suffer through, and we go through the things that we go through, because we'll close our hands and our fist and we'll say, hey, this is my spoil. Come on. This is what and even sometimes, you know what the sad part is? We'll even pull it in and say, this is what God's given me.
That's right.
But you don't want to let somebody else have a little bit of what God's given you, and that's the problem. Because if we'd open up our hearts, open up our hands, open up our minds, and give to everybody else what God has divided to us, then we wouldn't have no empty seats right here in this pew this morning. Hey, it'd be full.
Come on now.
You see, it'd be full. So I know, hey, maybe the devil's had you trapped in that place. It's time this week maybe to open up your hearts and give to somebody else what God has given you. Because you know what would that mean next Sunday morning, Wilson? Hey, we might look right here. And these pews that we find empty, we got 2 of them that we can put people on. Hey, that don't have a single person. Isom don't mind somebody sits beside of him. Hey, Rodney and his grandmother, hey, you wouldn't mind if, somebody come in and sit. Eric and Kia, they've got a little more room in there. I want to tell you, hey, we can squeeze some people in. And in the end, I want to tell you, there's a whole choir full of seats up there. And I tell you, if I have to stand, I'd just be happy as I could be. But we do that. Why? Because we're sharing what God has given to us. You see, sometimes we think it's ours anyway, don't we?
Come on now.
Even what we got out of the field, Keith, hey, they try to pull it into themselves. They try to hold on to it, and we think that that's ours. No, it ain't ours. Keith just said it this morning. When we was back there talking. You know what? Keith realizes something. You know, even in the side of his health thing that he's going through. Hey, he told me it's all God.
Amen.
You know what he realizes? He realizes that heart that's beating and that lung that's there and all that, hey, it all belongs to Him. And I want to tell you, even that tumor that rests inside of that lung, it all belongs to Him. And hey, it's God. Hey, He's the great physician. That's what Keith told me this morning, ain't it, Keith? He said, y'all just earthly physicians. He said, I serve the great physician. That's what he told me right back in there. So even in our weakness, my brother's already telling me, hey, he trusts God. And that's what we got to do. That's how we got to live. It's time we started living that way. Because if we live that way, we trust God. I want to tell you, what God can do with this church and with the people that sit here in this church is a mighty thing. I notice I didn't say you were mighty people. We serve a mighty God. Amen. But what He can do with His people is beyond belief. When you look at it, He said, for thou hast broken, notice what He said there in verse 4. He says, thou hast broken the yoke of his burden. He said, and the staff of his shoulder, and the rod of his oppressor. Boy, I'm so glad. Amen. Come on. Hey, the devil don't even have the keys to his own home anymore. Amen. Hey, because Jesus done went down there, busted in the door, busted through the gate, and then took all that he thought he had. But notice what he goes on to say. He says, for every battle of the warrior is what? With a confused noise. And the garments are rolled in what? Blood. He says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. He said in verse 6, notice here is the key, and here's where it all comes together, what Brother Wilson quoted this morning. I love how the Lord confirms a message. He said, for unto us a child is born. It says, and unto us a son is given. And it says, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And it said, in his name shall be he said what? Called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. You want to know how it all comes to you? That's the God that I serve, Brother Johnny. Hey, in the end, I won't tell you that may not do anything for you, but I tell you it does something on the inside of me, and I can't understand it. But hey, the God that I'm serving this morning, He said, unto us a child, hey, is given, a son is given. God sent Him to die, to bleed, hey, to be buried, and hey, to rise again. He sent Him for us, for you, and for me. And then He says, what? The government, hey, I'm not worried about it, Michael.
That's right. Come on now.
Because you know what? Hey, whether it be that this government, hey, I want to tell you is wicked, or whether it be that this government is good, hey, it don't matter but one thing. Hey, it all rests upon His shoulders. My God is the one that's king.
Amen. Come on now.
He is the only one that's king. I trust Him, and I put my trust in Him. And it said, in His name shall be called. Notice what it says. His name, Jesus, shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God. Who has ever experienced the Spirit of God could not call Him wonderful?
Amen. Come on.
Who that has ever experienced the joy of salvation, Brother Mike, could not be called Him wonderful? When you look at it, who that has ever experienced the reconciliation that Christ brought between us and our God as our Father? Hey, who could not say that He is a counselor? Can I tell you, He's my counselor, Brother Isaac? And I want to tell you, hey, He's a lawyer that ain't never lost a case.